Doing exhaust manifolds on the 65, and just did the one on Uncle Bill of 69, and determined that it was easier to pull the hood off after I did the entire job. So starting this one, pulled the hood off and got my brake booster here kind of in the way, but I figured it would be just as easy to go ahead and pull my outer and inner fender. Would give me probably the access that I wished I had when I did the job last time. So I'm going to go ahead and get this fender off of here. To get this one off, there is 3 bolts in the bottom. I believe there's 2 here, 2 here, there's 2 down in there. I think there's 1 more in the bottom if I remember right. Bolt here, 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 here. There's another one at the top. You have to reach up underneath the fender and get from inside. There's a couple bolts at the bottom. And the last one up here in the corner is accessed through the hole right here in the cab. There's a bolt in there. So I'm going to go ahead and yank his fender off and start working on the inner fender. To give you a better idea what it's going to take to get this off, you have one there at the very bottom, those 3 right there. I think there was one right there, the clip's gone. Bolt right there, bolt right there, one right there, one right there, the ones across the top, got the 2 here, the one access through the inside of the cab, and the one at the very bottom that holds it at the very back. To remove the inner fender, you got 1, 2, 3 at the front, and there is 1, 2 here at the back, which actually looks like this is just a plastic thing to hold wires or something. So you got this one here, got the 2 for my brake booster, and that should be it for the inner fender. And when you get the inner fender out, this is what you're looking at. Looking direct access right there, the exhaust manifold. That brake cylinder is going to be in the way a little bit, but I think I can manage. We're going to get at her. So this manifold still has this gizmo here, which surprisingly still moves. I don't know if the spring still works. I guess I've never looked to see if it actually moves when it's warm or cold, but it's still there. My grandfather's on the phone, so I didn't want to be videoing when he was on the phone. I went ahead and already heated this first one here, got this first one loose. These are going to be tricky. So on the 69, they were all flush, but on these, all of the bolts are recessed down into these ears. So I'm hoping that means there hasn't been water down in there and they're all rusty. I put penetrating oil down in there, let it sit for a while, we'll see. This one still has the heat deflector on it, so when I was heating it with the torch, I got a little hot and melted through, but going to be replaced with the gasket anyway. I already had a little bit of a fire incident just because these valve covers have leaked for so long and it's just covered in oil down in there. So, as like any other case, you're working on these old greasy engines, I got the just in case right there because you never know. Since these bolt heads are rounded off, I've been using one of the Craftsman deals. I don't know what exactly they're called, but the ones they have the spiral cut sockets. You tap them on and get a hold of the bolt heads that way. Still red in the cast. Oh, the head's turning. But I cannot tell whether it's turning at the bolt or not because I can't see down in that hole. We are moving thanks to the air compressor interruption. I will say that this brake apparatus is really plumbing my way. Okay, well, I think we got this one good. Got it moving pretty freely. So we'll go ahead and snug it back up just to try and prevent my manifold from warping from the heat from the torch, and we'll move on to the next one and keep plugging away at her. And I just had my first exclaim of disappointment on the back one here, the very last one, and that's what I get. Busted off bolt head, which means I have work to do. Now, despite them both being FEs, this manifold is a little bit different than the manifold on Uncle Bill. So this is off of a 352, Uncle Bill has a 360. But this one has this other doohickey on here. I don't know what it's actually called. I'm sure there's some technical name for it. But it's got the little spring coil on here, so as it heats up, it's supposed to open and close this butterfly, basically provide back pressure to help warm the engine up. And actually this one moves. So I'm going to try and lube it up a little bit, maybe with some dry lubricant of some type, and see if it loosens it up anymore. But yeah, it's free. Going to have to clean up this mating surface for the donut. It's just pretty dirty on it. Wasn't a whole lot of the tailpipe left, so the tailpipe that fits up inside this kind of flange here is rusted, so I'm probably have to get a new tailpipe some point in the future. There's a gasket here. I'm going to go ahead and measure that, so if you ever take it apart, you know what size gasket you need to get in there. Otherwise, the heat shield didn't really fare too well with the torch, but that's okay. It's going to disappear when I put the new Remflex gaskets on there. I have not flipped it over yet to see if it's warped, but we'll go ahead and do that. If you're like me and try and pre-game parts before you tear something apart, go ahead and try and help you out here. So these studs, if you want to get new studs, they're 7/16 by, we'll say, 3.5, according to my calibrated scale here. And this gasket is, we will say, 3.25 between the studs, and this whole diameter is about 2 1/8, roughly. So if you want to get a replacement gasket for this, which I unfortunately did not, I didn't realize that this one had this. That's what happens when you're 1,000 miles away from your truck when you order parts. Go and flip it over. So if I run my 6-inch scale across the flanges here, I'd say it's pretty good. Pretty happy on this. Flange to flange, it doesn't seem like there's any warp, so this manifold's in good shape. We're going to break out the torch again, see if I can get that busted bolt out. I cheated my process, so on all these other ones, I heated it, and when it got red, I kept heating and heating and heating, despite the fact it was already red, just trying to make sure it was really good and hot. The last one, I thought, well, if I get it good and hot, get it red, and quit, I'll be fine, and that's the bolt I broke. So whether it had something to do with my process, cutting it short, or whether it was just that stuck, I don't know. Well, that would be a problem. My gizmo doesn't go small enough. Step 2. Next worst thing, small pipe wrench. I think all I'm doing is rounding it off. Yep. Well, back to the drawing board. So here we are. After laughing at the Stud Extractor 1000, laughing at the pipe wrench, laughing at the vice grips, I went through 3 more heating and cooling cycles. I heated it red hot just till this cast iron here just started to bubble, just right before it started to melt. Got it all good and hot, let it cool for 5 minutes or so. Heated again, let it cool, heated again, let it cool. And I put the vice grips back on her, cinched up my pants, squeezed them down, and heaved, and I was able to get it to move a little bit. So now that we got it moving, we're going to keep it moving, add some lubricant to it, and get this bad boy out of here, because I spent about 45 minutes on it. So I am glad to see it go. If you're curious what I'm using for parts and or supplies, I'm going to go ahead and walk through that real quick. So first we have our exhaust manifold gasket made by Remflex. Comes a pack of 2. I believe it's 51 bucks from the company itself, 46 I think from Summit, and maybe 36 from Amazon, so make your own decision on that. I used brass nuts, but I used oversized brass nuts. So these are 3/8/16. So they have 11/16 wrench is what they take instead of the normal size. Just a little bit more meat on them. 7/16 lock washers, stainless, as well as 3/8 stainless lock washers. And for the manifold down to the tailpipe, 7/16 nuts, brass again as well. Using the Felpro donut here. Not your average Krispy Kreme, but it'll do. On Uncle Bill, later on my 360, I replaced the studs here because they did not have this doohickey on there, so they're shorter studs. So I got 7/16 stainless studs through in there. And for in the head itself to fit the manifold up, these are 3/8 by 2 1/4, but they're really about 1/4 inch too long or a 1/2 inch too long, depending on what your taste is. So I would recommend no longer than 2 inches, 3/8/16 stainless for in there. And also got some stainless flat washers to put in behind there. If you do have a 360, I think I'll try and fit it in somehow, but if you do have a 360, the studs that are in there will be these. This one broke, this one did not. So you can see comparatively how long they are. This is the original, and these are 3 inches long, I believe. So you can whack off a 1/2 inch and still have enough. But I'd rather have too much and whittle it down than not have enough and have to reorder parts. So, and if you want to on this one, because I don't have enough time, I'm leaving to go back to Georgia in a couple days. I threw a little bit of ultra copper around here just to seal that back up, since I don't have time to get a gasket for that. So depending on your assembly tastes, you may choose to get a tube of ultra copper as well. This is Armite, lead-based anti-seize. Supposed to be a little better for high temp applications. It's supposed to be good. I don't know that it's finger looking good. Wouldn't recommend it, but it's the stuff I'm using. So that's what it's going together with. We're going to get to throwing a manifold on. Got everything all torqued up here, and I will even give you a bonus tip. So, as I had previously mentioned, I got oversized brass nuts. I would not recommend them because they work fine for the top. You can get a socket in there. But the casting on the bottom is different, and you can't get a socket in there to tighten them. So I would stick with regular sized nuts. And you can see how much stud sticks out. 7/16 of an inch or so. So you can make them shorter if you want. Remember, they're 2 1/4 long, so they're a little bit long to begin with. Quiet as a mouse now, no obnoxious tick. Since I had it all apart, I also replaced the valve cover gasket since it was handy. Not having this fender in there, I was able to get right in at it. Got the fender bolted up, ready to throw the hood back on it and make it a complete truck again.